Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? We're back. Little Miss Entertainment, Awesome Nobody. And we're giving y'all another episode of the Little Miss Entertainment Show today to talk about a very serious topic. We're talking about
Yes.
podcast business today. It's been a lot of topics, and we've been podcasting for a minute, and I felt like we should just chime in.
Yeah.
We should talk about all the stuff that's going on from Joe Buttons to Spotify to Charlemagne starting his own network
It's a lot going on.
to the where podcasting even came from to how it was able to sustain this many people.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Doing podcasts. To see, I also wanted to talk about a podcaster's reality. And that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. You know what I'm saying? Where the ceiling is actually at. And then also talk about, sponsors and all these things that conversations are having. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Awesome Nobody. This is,
Little Miss ENT, what's up, y'all? Hey, what's up? What's up?
that's
What's
right,
up?
keeping us very entertained.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we thought it was very pertinent. Obviously, we've been doing the podcast for 6 years, and we have been very much boots on the ground. When you think about
Yep.
it, a lot of you listening might not have even listened to a podcast 6 years ago.
That's a fact. Humble beginnings, man.
Humble beginnings. When you think about it, what we have both put into and poured into the Little Miss Entertainment show brand, the network, the parent umbrella. A lot of you guys don't realize like that was the parent umbrella for all of my
You're right.
podcasting, and Awesome Nobody was the umbrella
Yeah.
brand for Awesome's podcasting. And so now we have the wedding edition that we have done together. Awesome has the movie guru, and he's about to develop a music blog style podcast. He does the Awesome Nobody podcast.
He's a man of many talents.
But he's about to do this whole platform, no skips. So, we have understood the need to brand yourself and align yourself because early on, people were making these alliances.
Yeah.
They were making these alliances with one another, and we were like, you know what? We are just going to stay true to ourselves and be truly independent and own
Yeah.
this content and be true to our lane
Yeah.
and our
Yeah,
content,
we
right?
just said, look, let's just focus on the work.
Let's put the work in.
Let's not try to go from the first step to the 10th step. Let's just
Correct.
do it day in, day out at our own pace, because this is not a race. I know everybody's racing for the check, and I understand that it's important to get paid, but it has to come with the time and the skill, and also when you're ready. There's this expression that says you wouldn't know what to do with it if I let you get it. You know what I'm saying? So you have
Yeah.
to understand
You have
what
to
to do
crawl
with it.
before you walk.
Yeah, when you get it, and when I say humble beginnings, I mean we started in the kitchen in her small 1-bedroom apartment.
I'm gonna put some OG pictures
yeah.
up, yeah,
And-
because I
and-
have them.
we started with, bad mics, bad lighting.
Yeah.
And then now we kind of push forward to what you see here where we have, the proper mics. We have mixers and the proper, we done blue mixers.
Oh my gosh. You remember
crazy
oh my
feedback.
God.
We
It
lost
was-
episodes. We did all this stuff.
It was a lot.
You know what I'm saying? And for no other purpose than we loved it.
We
You
did.
know what I'm saying? Podcast became something very near and dear to my heart from seeing Combat do it, you know what I'm saying, for the reason that, he was a professional and transitioned from the professional world into music. I'm in corporate America like for real. Little Miss Entertainment in corporate America for real.
Yeah.
But she had a radio background.
Correct.
And so we combined my love for being behind the camera and working the boards and her love for being in front of the camera. And then we mixed that together.
Yeah.
Now, at one point when we started, we were really pushing for some sort of partnership,
Yeah.
collaboration. We at one point when the studios have come and gone. So at one point there was a CBS. Remember CBS radio was really big. That was where
I think-
Elliot Wilson and Rap Radar started. That's where Noriega and the Drink Champs first started. And we did have a conversation with some people at CBS at one point.
Is that who Podcast One? Did they Podcast One buy that content?
I think so. Yeah,
I think that's it's very tricky. So
Yeah.
try to follow us because sometimes
yeah.
we forget along the journey of what has happened
So,
thus far.
so this is all podcasting really is from what they say out the mud, right? Like
Yes.
it really started in educational platforms
Yes.
when the Apple phone put the purple button. That's right. Get your phones in the purple button. The Apple Podcast
That you can't delete.
Yeah, the purple Apple Podcast button was on the phone, and it started
Mm-hmm.
educational for like student lectures and things like that. And
That's what it was for.
yeah, and then it kind of expanded to people being able to upload for free.
Yep.
And so, so Apple, the Apple platform was the first big platform.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, it kind of expanded, and now you'll see tons and tons of different platforms.
You know what, too, darling? So there's a difference between it being the platform and the software and the hardware.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Apple cornered the market. They were the platform, the software on the phone, and they were the hardware. So you could record in GarageBand, that's the hardware, upload it to
Apple.
iTunes at the time. You remember
Yeah,
you
yeah.
put it in iTunes, upload it into the software, and then it was on the platform that you see today that people could search. The searchability is the platform on your phone.
Yeah.
So those are key definitive things that people need to
That's
realize.
farm to fork. That's you know what I'm
Yes.
saying, soup to nuts. That's everything right there. It
Correct,
was
and that's why
one-stop shop.
Apple cornered the market with that.
But Apple dropped the ball.
They didn't know
right?
what they
because they had an influx of all these podcasters and never gave them any attention. From no repost on Twitter, no podcasting conferences, no podcast awards, no nothing. And it was sort of what was coming out of it was some of what I want to say is just these niche categories that were becoming extremely popular. And then with the listenership came the power that they had, and came the dollars, right? And so then you had at one point you had some. I always say the comedy podcast section is really the one that took off the most, because you see a lot of comedians who already have followers using this platform, and then they were getting
I almost think the gossip ones were the pop culture ones.
I mean, it goes neck and neck.
Yeah.
Only reason I say that is because when you look at some of the podcast festivals that came, they're all comedians.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's like, we had conversations with Podcast Movement about doing sections, and even they had started the Black Podcast meetups at these events. And it's really just been a few Black people, and there's been tons of comedians. So it was really trying to break through that. And so with the listenership, it's really a big gap, though. You'll either have 1,000, less than 1,000 listens an episode, or then you'll have some of the bigger ones that will have 30,000 listeners, right?
So can I just interject there? So we're going to talk a little bit about Joe Budden. And he kind of made a point that this is exactly what Awesome's talking about right here. We don't have the data. We will never have the right data, right? They can go in and suppress your listenership and you would have no idea that they're doing that, right? You upload through a platform and your RSS feed. We originally went on SoundCloud. There's a litany of different ones now that you can house what you call house your platform, your podcast host it on, and you have a RSS feed. They control that. Whoever works behind the scenes controls that. So that is where Joe was like, I don't want them to control it. I want to be able to have access to those numbers.
Yeah.
So that's what Awesome is getting into. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is that it was too much a disparity.
Yeah, it is.
You would see like, how does that person have
30,
10,000,
per
30,000,
episode.
100,000 listens per episode? And we drop the same time, same consistency. We might not be but we're only in 100.
Yeah.
There's some type of suppression listenership going there. So that's just the gospel by me, right? But I'll let Awesome continue.
I was showing the path from listenerships to the money.
Yes.
Right? Because that's really what it's about. So once these podcasts started generating all these listens, and I just used Combat Jack because that was where we started, and I started noticing he was getting, pretty much 30,000 per episode, and that might even be light. And but the way that their platform was set up on the loudspeakers was, they own studio, right, own network, own podcast. So just like Joe is saying, they kind of controlled their RSS feed to a certain extent.
And they controlled the content,
yeah,
too.
they controlled the content.
Yep.
You know, they did use Spotify, but they used that to sell sponsors outside of those platforms.
Well, they use SoundCloud, right? Because Spotify, I don't think, was out.
Yeah. So they were using, you know, outside of SoundCloud, they were getting sponsors themselves. So meaning that person was probably cold calling and say, hey, I have this platform. We're getting 30,000. Give me the old school podcast sponsor deal. Give me,
it would be like Blue Apron. Now you're listening. Thank you for listening to Little Miss Entertainment Show. Use my code Little Miss ENT and get $30 off your first Blue Apron, right? Like it was that.
It was 100 per thousand. I forget how much I used to know. It's CPM, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was
cost per click per million.
Yeah. So it was per every 1,000 listeners you get $20. That's what I think it was. That's what I think it was. So if you're getting 30,000, you do the math. You know what I'm saying? So it was a decent amount to start with. And that was it until the platforms expanded. So now other platforms start taking on podcasting. iHeart, Spotify, things like that. Still nothing from Apple. Nothing from Apple.
Apple was still just the software and the hardware.
Yeah, sleeping, total
platform.
Sleep. Total sleep. Now, if you're really behind the scenes, like kind of how I am, I'm on the Apple, and I shouldn't even get this away, but I'm on the Apple job site. So I'm seeing what jobs pop up on apple.com, like in California, and I'm seeing all these podcast jobs. So that lets me know right there that they trying to figure something out over there. I even applied for a couple of jobs.
Tell them what time frame that was this.
This was early.
This is not Austin's
not
talking about
years.
now.
Yeah, this is going back 4 years.
This is years ago, y'all. This is years ago.
So when I to understand what's going on in podcasting, I'll go onto a website. So I'll go on Apple jobs, careers. I'll search podcasts and see what comes up. And if I see they're looking for executive, manager, producer, whatever I'm looking for, I'm like, okay, that's an area that they're trying to develop.
Yes.
But then it's the opposite. If I don't see anything on there, I'm like, they're not even thinking about podcasts. Then I'll go to, I go to Spotify and see what they're looking for. And I'll see Spotify is looking for 4 podcast jobs or 0. And so that's how we used to adjust what we were doing based on what they were looking for in the industry. Same thing with Tidal. I'm on the Tidal careers page, seeing what they looking for, and see if what we need to change and correct, and then email them an inquiry and say, yo, we got this. I see you looking for this. We match what you're looking for. And you was with me one time when I got the email from Tidal about podcasts. And I'm like, because I applied for the position.
I think it was a producer position.
And so that, to me, that's business, right? That's understanding what the whole industry looks for and then creating your content to get in the game, right? It's not easy.
Because people will preach these. Yes, you need to be consistent. Yes, you need to have
it's
content.
Not magic.
It's no magic formula to it. It doesn't
don't get me
work
wrong.
like that.
There is popularity. This popularity thing started coming up, right? Meaning when podcasting became widespread and when influencers started emerging and when popular podcasters started getting integrated into normal society like music. You know what I'm saying? Then it really became, okay, this person is a podcaster. The podcasting job became real, where it was really just a hobby.
Because this is the thing. What I started to see, and I conveyed this to Awesome, is that, and he early on was trying to reverse engineer it for me. If you had a poppin' blog, right? Let's say your blog ABC, and everybody goes to your blog. You were the face of you were that blogger. I'm Little Miss ABC, right? That blog now wanted to convert you into a personality onto a podcast. So if you see a lot of the beginnings of popular podcasts, they were either a blogger or a YouTuber, because they were the ones that could speak the voice of the people. So then they took all of that segment and said to these larger media companies, we need to have a podcast. Who can we get with a following to start our podcast?
And so that's where you start seeing the crossovers.
Correct.
So where Complex was picking up certain people and then featuring them on the blogs, and then their listenerships was going up.
That's how you get an Ellie and a B Dot on a podcast. They were writers. They were they were the hip hop historians, and then they said, "Oh, we want to take this into audio form. We're transitioning from written to audio," and then there was another transition from just audio to audio and video.
And I'm not forgetting about. I didn't mention the radio aspect of it because Hot 97 and the Juan Epstein podcast was really really early, and out of that Juan Epstein podcast came Joe Budden's because Joe. He did have the morning show, and then he did start it with Marissa Mendez, who was working at Hot 97, and then out of Juan Epstein, the one guy, I forget his name now, he was executive producing the first episode of the Joe Budden podcast, and then Joe kind of broke away from that and kept doing it on his own.
Yeah,
and fast forward to where he is now.
Correct.
But the first podcasters that had a deal with Spotify
Rosenberg, right?
Yeah. I was talking about Rosenberg. Yep.
Yeah.
From Spotify, Combat Jack and Loudspeakers Network had the first Spotify deal with the Mogul podcast.
Yes.
And that was when they did the life story of I can't remember anything today. He did the
Kevin, not what's his
Kevin Lighty.
Yes.
Kevin Lighty.
Yep.
And so they did the Mogul series with Kevin Lighty, and basically it was a big production. So they were going from the SoundCloud to Spotify, so they upped the production, and it was like a movie. They had sound effects, everything.
It was well produced.
Well produced.
It was not your standard just jump on the mic podcast. It was a written to form podcast.
Yeah,
yes.
it could have been a documentary, an audio documentary. It was very well reenactments, all that.
There was promo behind Mogul. Like, it was a big deal.
Yep. And so that was the first Spotify deal. And there was no like communications behind it as far as what arrangements was or agreement was. It was just beautiful to see a new platform accepting podcasts. And then remember, everybody had to try to apply to get on Spotify, and they couldn't because they opened it, then they closed it, then they opened it later, much later for everybody. And meanwhile,
because they didn't know what they were going to do with it,
because it was still so new. And then meanwhile, Apple still isn't doing nothing. Right? Everybody had an Apple podcast at the time, and there was just nothing. No numbers, no stats.
Couldn't get nothing.
Every once in a while, somebody.
It was just that you were on the actual Apple podcast, and people could search you on the platform. That was
for free. Yep. And so then now Spotify being in the position where they've kind of, I want to say, wrangled together all the podcasters and became this space for podcasters. They made it seem like they were really going to give something to us. They started doing all these, I want to say, like podcast accelerator programs.
They sure did.
Mostly for women, which was good to see.
The Women in Color one, which was, I mean, if you have been an OG podcaster in any of those groups, you have seen the feedback, and we all have conversed.
Yeah, hit the lights right there.
Okay.
Yep. They were doing a lot of these accelerators, which was really really dope. So it's like, all right, so good things are to come. But then they kind of downgraded just a little bit. That's good. They downgraded just a little bit from opening up to sort of gathering to just maintaining. And so the way they maintained was they went and got what they thought was the #1 podcast.
Correct.
Which at the time was Joe.
And so I want to be very clear. I agree with a lot of what Joe has said and done. Everybody's going to have their own perspective. I agree with a lot. We're going to watch through this. The only thing I don't agree with Joe is that Joe segments himself from being a celebrity. Joe is a celebrity.
Yes.
And so he has way more leverage,
so
right?
Let's elaborate on that, because I used to have a big problem with this influx of celebrity podcasters.
Yes. Awesome.
So like I said, we came from humble beginnings. We started in the kitchen, right? We were two professionals who were doing this at night after their jobs, which was the story for thousands of people.
Yes.
And then what happened was they started making just a tiny bit of money or getting a tiny bit of exposure. And then I feel like the hype beast came in.
Everybody wanted to be a podcaster.
And when I say hype beast, I mean the people who already had platforms, celebrities.
Yeah, like Jimmy
actors.
Fallon has a podcast.
Yes.
Amy Schumer has a podcast.
Yep.
So you get this saturation of the market of people that are already quadrillionaires,
It's like,
right? Like,
yeah,
it's like
put it like this: it's like a professional basketball player going to the local courts
and being like, you know what? I want your $6 that you bet on this game right now. Like, what?
Like why? You stay in your league. You
Like,
you're in a whole different league, and like allow us to come up.
Yeah.
Don't stop us before we can get in.
That infiltration of the celebrities coming into the podcast world was right
Took all
at
the
a
sponsors. Yep.
It was at a pinnacle point where the independents
Yep.
were
And
at the point where they were about to start getting recognition and getting money.
Because a lot of the people that we knew were getting sponsors too. And it was like, okay, that's dope. We're seeing that their hard work is paying off. And then as soon as all these celebrities came in, all the sponsors just went to them.
You didn't see it anymore.
Yeah, you didn't see it anymore.
You didn't see any live reads from independent podcasters. I'm not saying we're generalizing, but a good majority of people, those companies were taking those dollars from the independents and putting it because
into celebrities.
You can't split the pie a million ways. You got to either put your money in what you feel like you're going to get the most return on your investment. So therefore, they shut out the independent podcaster.
I mean, we were boots on the ground in New York at a pivotal time. We were actually there for the podcast underground. You know, meeting like from when Combat and them started, from when they had the first Pods in Color meetup to when there was the whole, you know what I'm saying, support Black podcast movement. It was real in New York at a time where people weren't talking about it. You know, and then went from there to celebrities.
Well, I would say even there, New York, that is true. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. But the New York independent podcast scene made it and was pushing the culture forward with the messaging like, hey, person in Minnesota, you can podcast too.
Yeah.
And hey, person in Alabama, you can podcast too. And hey, person in Vermont, you can podcast too, because you can become part of this network of people of color that are podcasting.
Yes. And then that's when, you know, Barry.
Yep.
Shout out to Barry.
Shout out to Barry.
The hashtag and the directory podcast in color.
The largest directory.
Which is the largest Black independent podcast directory.
And people been coming at Barry's neck ever since, trying to steal her shine.
Oh yeah, and this is where Apple, once again, not knowing what to do. Every February they would just steal her. They would take her top 10.
We can't say for sure if they didn't consult Barry, but they would take whomever she had up there and put them as the top Black podcasters. They would
for February. Only
definitely
for February.
be lurking. Yes.
Yeah.
We don't know if they did call her or not, but they would definitely leverage her content to make their content.
Yeah, for real. And so it's like the typical thing, like they see that your content and stuff is important, but they don't necessarily give you the credit for it yet.
Absolutely.
And that was the problem that we had. And then when the celebrities came in, we continue to have that problem even more. So, okay, not taking away from Joe's grind, right, from his work ethic, because he started with episode 1 and is now on 376. So he put the work in, and, you know, but it didn't come from... he was already a celebrity. He had probably the toughest year ever because he started with the Complex show, right? And then arguing with everybody, got let go from there. Then they chased him with the rocks, right? Remember that?
I think that was before he got on Complex.
They chased him with the rock. Yeah, they chased him with the rocks. And then he was on Love and Hip Hop, fighting everybody from Consequence to, you know what I'm saying, proposals that didn't work.
To Safari.
That said no. It was ridiculous how much stuff he was doing. But, you know, any publicity is good publicity. And in his podcast, him talking about all that stuff gave him the I guess the
advantage.
Yeah, the
people
advantage
wanted to hear his story.
And he is very interesting, and he does have great points. And so he went to Spotify, they gave him the deal. But before that, you know, we have been following it because I told you, I say, yo, babe, this Joe Budden podcast is big.
Awesome is the one that put me up on Joe Budden podcast. I was not listening to Joe Budden podcast. And it was interesting. It was the Guys Club podcast.
Yeah, this was when still Marissa was on there up until she got fired.
But it was the misogyny that everybody speaks of.
This is before Maul, almost before Maul.
If you listen to it, it's just, I'm not excusing the misogyny, but they don't ever mean it. Like, and I'm not trying to shoot them any bit.
It's like inside the group chat.
It's like you can tell that they are just kind of goofy.
Well, it's a podcast. Is him and his friends. That's what it's supposed to be.
And that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You can tell almost if you listen properly that it is still produced.
Yeah.
It's still produced in what they say and how they say it.
And so so I was trying to give y'all just a timeline of when we first tuned into the Joe Budden podcast, and then Maul came on, and then they kind of were getting the publicity, and they were kind of toning it down, like you were saying, some of the misogyny on there.
They were definitely
and then they
adapting.
Then they started having conversations with different people, right? Different networks, right? I believe, once they got to a certain level, they did talk to, I want to say Barstool.
No, I think they first talked the title.
I was getting to that. Then they talked the title. Yeah. And then, everybody kind of wanted them to go to title because Rory had done a couple of title playlists. And then, they were Duce Palooza was right there. But, Joe has his beef with Hove. And I don't even want to say a beef, but
not anymore,
at one time
they
exchanged
words.
this songs, and then, I'm saying Hove rapped on Pump It Up, and he thought he made a shot at Joe. So he couldn't. Joe didn't necessarily want to go there. And I'm trying to paint this picture of just how many opportunities Joe had where he was difficult in negotiations. So Barstools didn't work. Gilly, fast forward to Gilly the Kid has a podcast with his cousin Wallow. Was $1 million worth of game. And they are on Barstool. So, and then Joe did say that deal was the same one that they offered them. That was $3 million. Gilly took a $3 million deal for Barstools. Title, we don't know what the deal was with Title.
I don't even think they got to a deal because Joe wanted the information.
Yeah, they were into a huge argument. Meaning, when I say they, I mean Maul, Rory, and Joe was in a huge argument because
they spoke about this on the podcast.
Yeah, they want the bag was big. Joe didn't want to take the bag. They had to do a little bit of talking, and they decided.
He brings it up now. He clarifies because Joe was looking for the data. And so Hove's like, I'm not giving you my proprietary information, which that will come with some of these deals, right? If I won't get too far into that. My sole background in my career has been entertainment contracting. That's all that I would sit and do all day long is negotiate and broker deals. So I understand it from a live touring aspect, but there's also language and things in there when it comes to proprietary information. And now with it being digital streaming, the ticketing side of it is so integrated with these bundle deals. So I've seen a lot of this language that Joe has talked about. So I understand clearly where he is coming from. But that deal, because Hove owned Title, and he's like, I'm not giving you my proprietary information. I will allow you to have free reign as a content creator, and you can own your brand and keep your license. We'll license it from you. That wasn't good enough for Joe because he had something to prove about what his worth was, and that's where this comes into play. This is a big play.
And then the next move was Spotify. Spotify offered him a big bag. I remember we were talking
trying
about
to figure out
how
what it
much
was.
Because you know what I'm saying, if you follow people on Instagram, not that you count people's pockets, but you do see. We saw he had the big house.
What did you say, darling? I remember what I said.
And then he got the Spotify deal. And then Joe moved, right? And he had a driver, and then he had this place. I mean, we from Jersey. I'm from Neptune, Asbury Park. She's from Atlantic City. So we know Jersey City, and I've been to Roof Chris right by. I'm pretty sure where his house is on Jersey City, right by the waterfront.
If you know Jersey, you know around where Joe lived.
Because I ran into Noriega at the Roof Chris on Easter,
like 2 years ago. Random.
And when they say Nori talks a lot, I remember eating, and he was like right at the table behind me. And he was just talking the whole time. And I kept looking back like, yo, he really do talk a lot. But and this is before he had his podcast. This is going back a couple of years. And so Joe has the waterfront place, and I'm like, yo, you can tell.
No, he had the mansion house first. You remember he had the
mansion house.
He had the mansion house. That was the beginning of. He was still in the mansion house. He just moved into the waterfront property.
You're right. So I was saying that, you know what I'm saying, they probably.
But he had the driver. He got the driver. We was like, Joe got a driver. He making the bag
And this ain't
now.
it wasn't
He had
Uber
the
Next.
chef.
Yeah, he
You
had the
heard the
chef. Yep. And then he even took a step further. He even had a baby. That's how you know when dudes eat.
People
when
was
they had
doing
the
good.
Baby.
It was
Oh,
doing all
man.
right.
So I was like, and that was at the beginning, and then so that season of Love and Hip Hop was right when he got the bag.
Yeah.
Because the whole storyline was that he was too busy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he, at the end of that season, he proposed to Sim.
And so
Yes.
we were saying that he probably got. I'll say 10 million. I think I said 10 million.
That's what I said.
What did I say? I said less.
You said less than that.
I said maybe.
I was
5
like,
million.
it's no way.
I said maybe 5 million because 5 is a lot. Because remember who's involved with. He has a manager, Ian, Joe. Ian gets 10%.
Ian's getting let's say just average, right?
Yeah.
He's getting 10%.
So if it's 10 million, Ian's getting $1 million off the back. So that's 9. All right. So it's 3 other people. It's not three and 3.
Well, no, it's not just
Parks.
It's Parks, Rory, Maul, Erickson, Savon. They didn't have Screen Man at the time. So let's say at that beginning of that deal it was 5 people. Sorry, Erickson. You get just a regular salary. Let's say he just get a regular salary. Savon
He get
too.
invoiced.
Yeah,
They get invoiced.
They're getting a regular, like you make your $75,000 a year. I'm not saying that's the number. When I told Awesome, I said you got to take in consideration the leads. So
I just kept
Joe's
it with
the
the 3,
Joe's the principal, and the leads would be Rory, Parks, and Maul, right? Parks was old money from old Joe Budden project. So I said Parks had to get broken off first. Like they had owed him money from that. Rory was basically day one with him with
Rory
the
quit
podcast.
his job. He quit his job. Yeah.
So I said Parks was getting the the second biggest payout. Rory was getting the third, and Maul was getting the fourth. We never I was just doing numbers in my head to see, and like we're not trying to do no corny stuff and count their pockets. We was just as
It's all
creators
gonna come together in the end. Yeah.
exactly trying to figure out what type of deal does that equate to, right?
Yeah.
Like, does the person with the #1 podcast, what do they make? Because we trying to figure out what that means to us.
Yeah,
exactly.
So anyway, they get the bag, right? And it's been a year now, right? And then so now in the renegotiation, and he doesn't want to renegotiate with them, and it basically has been in the news everywhere, and he's been really saying, he just kind of hates Spotify now. I have not heard what he said.
Yes, I've heard what he said.
She's heard, and so I wanted to kind of watch it live. So we're gonna watch it now. Do you want to, like, if I have things to say, can I stop it?
Yeah.
Through the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but I said all that to say that Joe has a history of, I don't want to call it bad negotiations, but I'll just call blocking his own blessings. You get what I'm saying? Because
he's a little bit of a renegade. He goes to the beat of his own drum at any means necessary.
And the reason why it's a contrast because we work, right? So I have a normal job. I'm not gonna go to my job and say, yo, I need, $2 million from my work, even if I'm on a salary. You get what I'm saying? And try to make them understand.
Give the example without saying that product, because that's a better example. When we was walking yesterday, you was like the guy that made.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's a better example than saying your salary employee, because it's very different. But this is a good example about what Austin's about to say.
You know what I'm saying? I got a microbiology background. You know what I'm saying? I worked at a lab. I worked at the USDA lab in Pennsylvania, and one of the lab managers was a guy who made lactate. So, like you said, he isolated the gene from the milk and removed
we know
the whey.
It today, this guy made this
and
thing.
he had the lactate without the whey, which is what causes the lactose intolerance. So he just has the lactate, and so he was employed. He got a salary. When he did lactate and it became the brand lactate, he didn't get anything extra.
That's what we talking about.
Yeah.
If you guys can understand that concept.
He got the patent plaque. He got his name on the patent and all this stuff. But he just got his normal salary, and he is credited as the creator. But the company owns the patent.
So that's what happens
creator,
when you work for a corporation like that. They own all of the information that you bring to the corporation. So that's a better example of that.
So he could, of course, he could have spent all his money trying to sue, but it was already in his original contract that anything developed during that time is property of the company.
Yes.
And so
It's
that
property of the company.
That little detail right there is why I'm saying like this. What Joe's trying to get, you're not gonna get from the company.
Well, you'll see because you haven't
I haven't seen it yet.
watched it yet. It's almost the exact what you're saying is the exact opposite point of kind of what he's trying to
Slide over here.
what he's trying to say.
All right.
Because he says that he owns it.
Was expecting a raise.
Are we gonna get into?
Hey, real
the whole
niggas.
thing?
Hey, real niggas would have tore this contract up in month 1 and done right. Yes, that's what would have happened. We have earned you 9 figures. In sports, this contract should have been ripped up. It wasn't. September comes, we're owed a bonus because there's benchmarks there. Mm-hmm. We have been number 1 for a year straight.
Yep.
$500,000 just bonus just because. Guess what happened in September? God damn it, you guessed it. Not a bonus in sight.
Now, he mentioned bonus, right? How do you feel about bonuses?
I felt him to the core when he said this.
Okay.
Not to get too much in my own personal finances. That is, if you are a bonus employee, that right there is a pain point of saying, yes, if you hit X, you will get Y.
And then you don't get it.
And then they be like, wouldn't that, because X times 3 times 4 to the 7th power is X.
Yeah.
You never see the 3 times 4 times to the 4th power
Until the last minute.
till it comes time to pay the bonus out. Now, granted, I don't want to. I've gone through that. I'm not currently going through that. I'm gone through exactly, and I've been that person to turn up at bonus time to be like,
what is this crap? Yeah.
I've made this corporation X amount of dollars.
It doesn't matter at that time.
Where's my bonus?
Yeah. Now,
you know?
I've had pretty much the same experience, right? I signed on with a company and I was supposed to get a bonus, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, every year, at the end of every year.
Yes.
First year, they said, you haven't been here long enough, right? So you got to wait till next year. And that year I didn't get the bonus was the biggest bonus they had. Like, Cass was buying new roofs. You know, these responsible folks. But dude bought a whole new roof for his house. It was 25 large, and he still had money left over. So I'm like, man, I really missed out. I'm like, but next year, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure it's going to be the same thing. Next year come, guess what, y'all? We not doing that well. Like, are you kidding me? I don't even want to say what
This
the product
is what
was, but listen,
happens.
it's no way that they were doing bad. It's impossible because all year they tell you that every month they doing these breakdowns and they're doing these shareholder meetings and they're like, hey, stock is up, this is up, our numbers are up.
That's why
it's
you
doing
need
great.
to know how business works, so you can be like, as Awesome is saying right now. Wait a minute.
And then
That
they,
Q1090 looks like, or whatever that report is, looks pretty good.
And then they start, because even when it comes time for the end of the fiscal, they start doing funny stuff like canceling all travel, right? Because they want the money to stay there so they can report it.
So if you've ever worked a corporate job, you know exactly what Joe is talking about right now. This is not new to anybody that has ever worked in corporate America.
Yeah. But see, this is how it works, right? The upper management gets the bulk of the
100%,
bonuses
because it's based off a percentage of your salary.
And you doing the majority of the work do not get it. You know what I'm saying? I remember dude, I mean, he was a manager for one of the departments. I didn't know him, you know what I'm saying? But I knew of him and would see him in the, speak at the meetings. But words started floating around on how his bonus was $300,000. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, Jesus.
And you can't get your little 10, 20, 30,000.
But they telling us that our bonuses, that the company wasn't doing well enough, and so we don't get any bonuses.
So this is my thing. I know everybody is this smear campaign's going on with Joe, but all he's doing is really exposing what we have seen for our decade or and a half career. Our parents might not have ever been at the executive level to be a bonus eligible employee because we are first generation executives, honestly. In the workplace, they don't want us to argue these points. They don't want this information to be spread on podcasts for millions of listeners because it's not just Joe at Spotify. This is a capitalistic trait and way of doing business. Period.
And now that you put it that way, it's almost the same, identical. Like, you know what I'm saying? Joe's podcast really is the only like black podcast really at Spotify on that level.
Yes,
on that
is
level.
what he is
and we,
saying,
us,
y'all.
Us being in these offices, we the only black people in these offices to that level anyway. And we are low levels. You get what I'm saying? So Joe, even though his podcast is big, he's still
on
low
a
level.
bigger scale.
It's just a bigger scale.
That's
yeah.
it. And that's what I think people were missing the point. I had spoke on. I'm gonna let Awesome play. I just want to say this last thing. I had spoke on it on my IG stories the day that this came out, and I felt this to my soul, because if you have been in this position, whether it's somebody, and we'll get into Andrew, who cares if he asked for $250 million? If that is in ratio to what he is bringing into that company, and it's 20 or 30%, yes, that's what that man should be paid, just like you should be paid your bonus at your job.
Yeah, but this is where the wall is, that because of the way the business is set up, the corporate is set up, you're never going to get that.
And so that's all he's saying.
Yeah.
That's what he was saying. But at the end of the day, we'll get to it. This was Spotify trying to bring a deal to him, and he was negotiating. He was giving them the alter the offer, basically.
Yeah. So that I feel is pain on the bonuses, and we'll hear the rest of it.
I was confused. For me, it's about building a network. For me, it's about having quite a few of these. And if I can't bring them to somebody that's going to value that properly and respectfully, then I'm the small percentage of podcasters that will say no to the money and not bring it to you. Be very clear. The money I'm talking about turning down and that I walked away from is substantial. It is more money than I have ever been privy to in my entire life. I've never touched it. I've never had conversations about it.
So I want to stop right there. He's trying to do a Master P, right? This goes back to when we just watched the BT. What is it called? Is it Unsung or BT?
No, it's the documentary.
Yeah, so they did the No Limit documentary. They did the Chronicles.
Chronicles.
They did the Rough Rider Chronicles, and Master P. You know what I'm saying? Got to the point where Jimmy Iovine comes. And Jimmy Iovine offered Master P $1 million, and he said no, because he said, if I'm worth $1 million, imagine what I'm really worth.
And that's all Joe's been saying. That's all Joe's been saying. I often get into conversations because Awesome does manage the Little Miss Entertainment finances and budget, right? And I'm always telling him, I have to ask them for more, because if they're presenting me with this, that means that I'm bringing them 4 times whatever they're asking me for. And I understand he always tells me that we still need to develop relationships. I believe that, but I want to be paid. I'm not doing these services for free anymore.
Everybody want to be paid.
But the thing is, if you don't start to press the business side of it and have those uncomfortable conversations, if they walk away, they walk away. If they walk away in hesitation and turn back around, you already have won.
Yeah.
You know what you're worth to them.
The first step is finding out what you're worth.
Yes.
You know, and that's the hard part, because as Joe's trying to say, it's hard to put a value on it when they won't accurately give you your stats.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So basically, it's put like this: if he's saying he's reaching, I'll just say 10 million people. I'm sure it's more. If he's saying I'm reaching 10 million people, but y'all only paying me for reaching 1 million.
The numbers
there's
don't
a
add
whole
up.
thing I'm calculating, but there is this thing in business that you can't calculate, right? We used to call it muda, right? And muda was waste that you just couldn't account for, but you know it had a cost, right? So every project would have a deduction for this muda in there, and it would just be it was a physical, non-physical thing, and so. That's kind of what I feel like he's trying to capture, something that you really can't calculate, but he knows it's there.
In regular business, they call opportunity cost.
Yeah, so you just kind of have to, but you can't. The way that business is set up, they're always going to win. So for him to try to add that into his his package and what he's worth, you honestly can't do it with a business. You have to do what Charlemagne did, which we'll talk about later, when Charlemagne went and did his own network. Because then whatever platform you put it out there, you can do. You can get your numbers and you can sell that.
You'll see though, the Charlemagne. I don't agree with the Charlemagne deal.
All right, well,
I don't
save
agree.
it. But I will say this though, there was another podcast platform. So you put it good when you said it was the content, it was the platform, it was the
the hardware, the software, and the platform.
yeah. So
yes.
this Castbox, I'm sure you guys have seen them pop up. All of a sudden, Castbox is a hardware.
The hardware would be like the computer or the Alexa device.
It was an app.
So that's the software.
Software. Okay,
Yep,
you're right.
that's
You're
the
right.
software.
Sorry. So it's the software. It was a startup. They raised capital. I think it was like $3 million. They put it out there, and then they, you know what I'm saying, now they got the software for podcasting. That's just, you got your stats right there. I mean,
Yep.
if you really want that number, then create that. You already got the platform. You bring in the audience with you, right?
Yep.
Then put it out there. Create the platform through the normal way. Tap into them. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where you have to go. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't understand why is it hard to do that.
Well,
Especially if you're already talking big bags.
the thing is, the exclusivity deal gave him. He did the case study. If you have your podcast on all these different platforms, you will never know how you can manipulate your listener. If you put it exclusively on one platform for 2 years, you know your listener will do X, Y, and Z. They will listen at this time. They will listen for this many hours. If you do that on multiple platforms, now you're trying to integrate all that information into a database, and then you got to algorithm. You have to do the algorithms
And so
on all
I
of
see
it.
that because if you watch each episode, he says use the code Joe and come in. So, but this is where Spotify's debating. If I was to pick up my phone right now and log on to Spotify and use the Joe code, right? I'm gonna listen to. Let's say I'm listening to this episode. It says 375. But then I'm like, oh, I want to listen to some other podcasts too. Now that I got this subscription, I go listen to 4, 5, 6 other podcasts, right? So yes, Joe got them in the door. That's one. I'll just say one listen. But then I listened to 4 other podcasts. So that's where Spotify is saying like, look, even though you did some, you didn't do all, because
I disagree
those other
with that view.
platforms also kept the audience and engaged them as well.
But he brought them to the party.
You're right, but you get what I'm saying.
That's what
So
his
the company,
point
I'm
is.
just saying, I'm just giving a different point of view. So Spotify is saying like, yo, you got them there, but we kept them there. So that's why we're willing to compromise. You know what I'm saying? Compromise on their cause because they feel like they're doing their platform is holding them, whereas you just brought them.
And he counters that. He believed they wouldn't have come unless he was there.
And I agree with them. I agree with them. I do. All right, so that was the bonus, and then that was so we'll finish listening to it.
Guess what? So?
Right.
It's not right.
Right.
Hey, we want to offer you a token of our appreciation. Can we get you guys watches, Rolexes, ball out? I love Rolex. It took me 10 years to get the Rolex I have on my wrist. Hey, I even bought fake Rolexes.
Yo, they gave him the Diddy deal, right? The fake rollies, they gave him the Diddy deal. I get you a car in your name and roll.
How insulting!
I mean, but
like, when are they going to realize that we are going to stop taking that? Like, that angered me when he said that. Like, that angered me. Like, how insulting! Don't insult my intelligence, nor my brand, nor my worth with a Rolex.
But let me say this. Remember, it used to be the retirement gift, right?
They used to be the signing bonus. Like, hey, here, thanks for signing. Instead of giving me my money, instead of negotiating my deal, you think you can bribe me with a Rolex?
That's the tomfoolery right there, man.
That is the foolery at its peak.
So while we stop at that part, right? Let's talk about Spotify for a second. I have been to the Spotify office twice. I walked around there, you get what I'm saying? And if you don't know, Spotify is a Swedish company. So there really wasn't many black people in the office, period, that had I'll just say it, shit to do with shit. You know what I'm saying? There was Tuma Umbasa, right? Who was pretty much huge over there, created the rap Caviar. And then there was another gentleman who actually, I believe, did some of the creating of the way the platform looks and way the organizing the song. So I think he was like the audio engineer that arranged it, right? And that's pretty much it. I walked around the office and that was it. A whole bunch of Swedish guys. Now, I'm not saying that they don't know what music is or what's good or what's not, but there's one thing that you can, I want to say, count on when it comes to white music executives. It's always the rape, the jerk, right? It's always the tomfoolery. You know what I'm saying? Because it seems like from rappers to rap labels to these California, Interscope or whoever else, it's always an artist getting something like that, or not getting their full publishing, but always, not getting the full potential because of someone who actually worked with them but didn't value them, and that's what it seems like here. You're right. I mean, because they value things like Joe Rogan. I don't even want to bring that. I didn't bring that up yet, but I guess I might as well now. Spotify bought the Joe Rogan podcast and gave him $100 million. Now
$250 million.
I started watching Joe Rogan a while ago. I stopped watching Joe Budden and started watching Joe Rogan, and I'm telling. I call it babe. I'm like,
You can call me babe.
I'm like, look, this Joe Rogan is doing some big stuff over here, right? I've been telling you for a while, and it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
His platform is so much universal than anything else that's being podcasted. It's one day it's Andrew Yang, the next day it's
Elon
psychic.
Musk, and that is what they value because it's what they know, right? It's what they know. It's more of up their alley, right? Electric guitars, you know what I'm saying? Hiking, all that stuff compared to this niche, which Joe is doing, which they understand the value of, but don't appreciate. And so they gave Joe that money and then so Joe Rogan the money. And so Joe's like, man, but that shouldn't have anything to do with me because I'm already here. Yeah. And so this is where I said earlier, Spotify's like, this is how we keep them here. We bring Joe Rogan in. And so even though they got him there, Joe Budden got them there. They got Joe Rogan in to keep them there, and that's the Okie. That's the Okie right there. It shouldn't be like that. But then now they gave Joe Rogan so much money, the budget is flat. It happens all the time in business, right? What happens that they do something and the budgets are flat for the rest of the year. All travel has stopped.
Awesome ain't telling y'all no lie.
You gotta wait until to Q1 to start things back up.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. This is what August, September. That's Q1 to Q2 right now. This is Q3 right now. When they made that announcement, it was pretty much at the end. And so now they like, all right. So now that they not doing anything. So Joe's in a hard spot because they're not making no more negotiations until Q1. And he's in a hard. Do
it in Q4 for the following year.
Okay, you're right. So Q4. So he's in a tough spot. He's in a tough spot, and that's why he's not getting the money that he's asking for because their people is backing him and saying we just can't do it. Everything else is locked up. I've heard it all the time. And it's a shame. And they use that to force you to take what they want to give you. And that's where he's coming in. Like, okay. This guy, what are they like? Blingy things? Bling bling? Let's just give him a watch.
It's so insulting.
Yeah, it is. Because they understand the value, but they don't appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? They didn't offer Joe Rogan a Rolex. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys follow Joe Rogan, but you should. I mean, because it's amazing to see just I don't even want to call it privilege, but just the privileges that he has. He's built a new studio.
He's in a different stratosphere.
Yeah. I mean, it's just totally different from what he is allowed to do and he is able to do compared to what he has to do. I mean, Joe is kind of doing what he has to do. Joe Rogan's doing what he wants to do. Yeah. So I mean, all right, let's finish it.
Until I was able to get me a Rolex that was up to my fucking stature.
Yeah.
So when they said that, what did we all go do? Come on, y'all can share. Don't be embarrassed.
Before that, they was
Morwin picked out something with a bezzy. diamonds on Maul shit. Maul picked out the greatest Harlem Rolex you could possibly pick out. Come on.
And had the globe in the face.
And that was being subtle. I was going to send the all gold AP through, but I said, you know what I mean? Let me just chill. That was the chill look. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Hey, we all gave him the chill look.
The most subtle joint. I had the little green face joint. That,
we were humbled.
Like I could have bought.
Yeah, right.
We were humbled.
Yeah.
The bill was no more than $200,000. We wasn't picking out a watch for Don Browse. It was for us.
Right.
And Spotify came back and said,
we were thinking fossils. Yeah.
It's a lot. I was thinking swatches.
How do you feel about used watches?
Yeah. Come on, what are you doing? Hey, we're not greedy people.
No.
We sent them our used watches. Hey, I can get my shit used. It's 70 new, maybe 40, 50 used. I'll take it. Used watches for everybody. We sent that in. What did they say? You guessed it.
Have you seen the new G-Shock?
We don't know, number one podcast. We don't know. It's a lot. And I say to them, you know what? If you're serious about truly showing us appreciation for being number one for 2 years, and you're going to give us a budget to celebrate, what we want to do, that's when I came to y'all and said, how do y'all feel about giving money away to the fans in December? Mm-hmm. I said, hey, this is their token of appreciation. This money would go to us, but I don't believe that we could really honor any appreciation without appreciating the fans that got us here, that came here to this undeveloped market. Mm-hmm. If you have $50,000, let's give it to the fans. If you have $75,000, let's give it to the fans. Mm-hmm. It's the holidays. Mm-hmm. You can't buy more promotion than you can with that. It's a great gesture. You're doing the right thing in your heart. And wow, what a look. Mm-hmm. Nah.
Nah, we'll hold that.
Nah.
We got some more signings coming up.
Why give it back to the people that are subscribing to us?
That was the first time it dawned on me that Spotify is pillaging. Mm. You pillage the audience from the podcast, and you've continued to pillage each step of the way without any regard for actually how the people feel, the impactful people, the people that are responsible for making all of this come to fruition, is how I felt. Well over a year and a half now, I've been waiting for the right opportunity to let you know that you have valued this thing improperly the entire time. Mm. And through the course of 2 years, I've been watching certain actions take place that are demeaning to us, that are offensive, that is offensive to us. It is disrespectful to us. It is a slight to us. Again, you're looking at me as Joe Budden, and what is happening is complete and utter disrespect, not only to me and the gentlemen that I'm surrounded with. It's disrespectful to all the people that believe in what we're doing, all of the different areas of this network that we have built out for years. So when you come to me and say all of this stupidity, it's not just a slight to me. I have to think about my multiple production companies, crews on both coasts that add to this. This is not a Joe Budden thing. I have to think about our legal department that exists, a bunch of lawyers that we just talk to every day. Our finance department, our department of accountants, our social team, our editors, Savon and these niggas, Pod Parasi. There's way too many people to account for. To this day, I have not received a proper offer for the podcast individually. And that's where something is off. I have not received a proper offer in isolation for the asset that has gained you 9 figures in profit. It's not up for debate. If I were to accept that bum-ass deal that Spotify put in front of me, I would not be able to sleep at night. I don't care how much money it is. It's my job to protect y'all from some of this shit that these DSPs are going to try. It's our history. It's our experience. Then it's silly of me to think that somebody who has been robbed their entire existence would get made whole and do the right thing. It's a mistake.
All right, let me just jump in there, okay? Because the vibes I'm getting, I can feel his pain first of all, but
You can feel that he's upset.
yeah, but see, he is not Spotify. The Joe Budden Show is not Spotify. It's on Spotify.
But that's what he was saying. So I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't like Spotify as a music streaming platform. It is to me.
It just became a big name. That's all.
It to me is the worst music streaming platform.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's overfilled with ads.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And it's hard to get to. And you know.
It's not easy to navigate to find what you want.
It used to be like, oh, if you're on Spotify, it kind of validates you as being somewhat professional. But if you ever send a link for somebody, you got to sign in, you got to sign up, and you got to listen to all these ads before you can get to the content. So nobody really messed with it.
The only reason we mess with Spotify is because Awesome's job provided him a free login, like that came with. And
it was supposed to be the podcast platform. We saw all of the people that we were basically mentoring us in this were going towards there. Combat was working towards there. Joe was working toward there. So we saw these people of color getting sort of recognition.
But it goes back to your point, darling. When you go to the headquarters and nobody looks like you, but you are trying to bring that whole entire culture under your umbrella, it is a huge disconnect. There's no voice in the room. You don't even know how to talk to us. You don't even know how to talk to your main client.
Yeah, and they've got their own idea for what they want. You know what I'm saying? So what they're really trying to do is a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors. So even like I said, they want you to bring them, and then they claim to keep them. You know what I'm saying? But it's a switch. You see how I switched that?
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do.
It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. So but this is why Joe has to understand that he's on Spotify. He is not Spotify. So he 100% should create his own platform.
And I think that's where I know you're getting to it, but that's what he's getting to. Like that.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. The way he's saying it.
And that. I don't want to jump too far, but that's the beef right now between him and Charlamagne.
I think we can jump into it. Charlamagne jumped out the window, but see, he's working with iHeartMedia, and he's creating a podcast network, and he has a list of all the podcasts.
But he does not own.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. He doesn't own it.
Yeah,
he's still gonna be on iHeart. So he's not iHeart.
Parent company.
He's on iHeart, but
he's an employee thereof.
What he probably does is it's like a label deal, right? So he made his own label. He made his own label, and he funnels it through him, and I guess it's going to be exclusively on iHeart, right?
Who knows?
Which is not bad. So let's say I'll just say him. How much do you think he got? I don't think he got 20 million. I don't even think he got.
This is what I know. You didn't listen to the Joe Budden episode that dropped today, but I'll catch you up. They're really in a beef now. They're like him and Joe. They exchange words, right?
Okay.
So Joe's whole thing is you brought all of these predominant black voices under this brand.
He did.
To leverage the fact of the matter that you didn't negotiate the money that you wanted from your Breakfast Club deal. So you didn't get what you wanted from the one asset. So they said, hey, if you want that money, you need to bring us something else. And so what did you do? You scooped all these predominant black voices and said, hey, I'm gonna be your mentor, your leader, your everything. So you could get your money at the top, but you still don't know what they're going to do to these people's content at the bottom. That is a problem to me.
Well, I mean,
that's a problem to me because you didn't necessarily do it. I do believe that he had good intention in that, but I also think that he had self-intention in it.
I mean, well, first of all, I have met Charlamagne, you get what I'm saying? And the vibes that I've actually thought, you know what I'm saying, he had from when I met him was totally different, meaning that he, in real life, I want to say he is very caring. He a lot of the same vibes as Combat, right? Combat always said everybody should start a podcast. Charlamagne for a long time was supporting a lot of people's podcasts. He even took on a girl who went to one of his events, she asked him if she could be his intern. He allowed her to be his intern, right? He's on that type of time when it comes to podcasts. He has co-signed, and
I think he's for the culture.
he has pushed up
I
a
don't
lot
think
of
that he's
podcasts.
not.
He pushed up Horrible Decisions podcast a lot, right? He mentioned Mandy, and then their pop platform blew up. They got on Complex, and they're on his network now. So he has his label. He scooped up a ton of podcasts. I think some of the list. Can you pull up the list that he has? Because I remember Joe saying if he was going to start a network, he would have a couple of podcasts, right? And one of them, I believe he said he was going to have one of the basketball players from Washington almost came to my mind. But he was saying he was going to have basically like a basketball podcast from one of the guys that he thought was really interesting. And I see a lot of similarities in the label that Charlamagne started that Joe said he would have used. Okay, so right there's conflict because I feel like there was some, I don't want to say taking of ideas, but kind of like, yo, he's not doing anything, mess with me. But at the same time, if Charlamagne's making a deal to get money, everybody does. Like if you look at TDE, the record label, right? Kendrick Lamar, right? J-Rock, all those guys. The dude Punch doesn't make no records, but he is the CEO. If you look at Cash Money, Baby is the CEO, and there's Lil Wayne, Young Money, Drake, all those guys over there. Rockefeller, it was Dame Dash and Hove and Biggs, right? And then they had other artists. Bad Boy, Puffy. It always goes back to one person. It has to be set up like that.
This article doesn't have the full list, but there's a Just Hilarious podcast, a Tamika Mallory podcast, and an Ebony K. Williams podcast, inclusive of Drink Champs. Drink Champs is now going to be on this network.
And wasn't Ebony on the show with him?
Yes. That she's on State of the Culture.
It seemed like they
So you didn't listen. It's okay. You didn't listen to today's podcast, the Joe Budden podcast, but he called Noriega.
Oh wow.
And he was like, "Yo, you getting ad revenue?" He like, "You don't have to answer that." He was like, "How much you getting paid?" You don't even have to answer that. He was like, "How is?" And Nori couldn't answer any of Joe's questions, which was a little scary to me.
But see, this is the thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? I always say, where is Joe getting his information from, right? To me, you're not okay. You know, you've heard your manager Ian say a couple things to you, so then you rapid fire. I hate when people do that. They rapid fire you questions to try to make it seem like you don't know. I defended in my graduate degree. I defended my thesis, and what do you think my graduate advisor did? He tried to throw out all these fast questions at me, right, from my thesis defense. But I knew it because I went through it. You just went through it. Yeah, so I already knew all the answers to the question because it was my thesis. So I understand, like, yo, there's a certain thing that answer, but it's a trick. You get what I'm saying? It's a thing. It's a scheme. It's a move to throw out those fast questions. Everybody does it after a certain level. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think just because Noriega, who is a content creator who's focused on making content, I don't think he would know because I don't think Joe knows. But Joe's manager Ian had told him what he should be knowing.
I'm sure he doesn't.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't think that anybody knows what this deal is because no details have come out about it yet. And the way that Nori was talking about it, it's a lot to still be figured out.
And there's still, like I said, there's that muda. I just always call it muda, which is that part that you can't compensate for, right? The amount of waste that's there that you really can't measure. So all that stuff that you're talking about, I'm sure Noriega's like, yo, it's going to be an iHeart. That means it's going to be everywhere. But, you know what I'm saying? He's not putting into perspective that it's really 3 markets, West Coast, Middle America, East Coast. And then those ads, it doesn't even matter because if Nori's getting 3 million, that's enough. That's enough. You don't need, but see, Joe wants that ad revenue because Joe wants to say like, okay, there's another $2 million out there that I'm not getting. Right. But guess what? That 2 million, when you sign your contract, I'm backwards here. When you sign your contract, on that little fine print that they always say you need to read, it's saying there that that's saying there that, yo, right now you're not gonna be able to get that because that's gonna be the cost that we recuperate for a couple of things.
Absolutely.
It's just how it works in every business.
Yep. It is. Yeah.
So I don't understand why Joe is really being like, yo, there's so much that he should have just took, because look, he should have just took a decent deal. If he's saying they were going to offer him more money than he's ever seen this year, there's always renegotiation next year.
But you know what the thing is that you know how YouTube works, right? If he just puts Joe Budden podcast exclusively out on YouTube the days that
the
it
taxes
drops,
they're gonna take out is crazy.
but it doesn't matter. He probably can make what he was gonna make.
okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why these YouTubers are they're not
there's a boy, an 8-year-old making $28 million a year. But see,
what
this
you
goes.
think Joe gonna do? He gonna make $100 million
This
a
goes
year
into
on YouTube.
now. This
on
a
YouTube.
bigger picture. This goes into the whole Dave Chappelle thing. Dave Chappelle turned down $50 million.
Yes.
So if Joe's and it came out for Andrew Schultz. He said that Joe asked Spotify for $250 million.
Joe today said that was a lie.
Of course he's gonna say it's a lie, though.
But of course he's gonna say
it's a lie. Of course he's gonna say it's a lie.
He kind of proposed it. He was like, "I'm not even that insane to ask for that kind of money." So I don't know. We don't know who's telling the truth. We can only go off of what people are saying.
I'll put it like this. I've heard Joe lie before.
Joe do be lying on the
I've
podcast.
heard Joe lie before.
Poor
I've
Joe.
heard this man
Joe
lie
be telling
before.
fibs.
I heard him lie before. And honestly, sometimes I had to really stop listening to Joe because I felt like he was
He be making
capping.
stories
He was
up.
capping a lot on there.
He makes stories up.
He does. He was. You know what I'm saying? He does. So well, all I'm saying is that I think that for 100%, he asked for something crazy. Right? It might not have been 250, but I'm sure he wanted to bet the best Joe Rogan.
My problem is, and I agree, I think Rory said that on today. Andrew Schultz, who are you to be talking about Joe Budden? You're not even in this conversation, right? We always talk about there's a Hove level and then there's a Lil Uzi level, right? Lil Uzi is popping out here in these streets.
But see,
he's
this the
not
thing.
Hove status. Uzi can't talk about Hove topics.
Nah, I mean, that's
Andrew
like,
Schultz, you somebody, but why are you talking about this? This is not even the league that you in right now.
He can.
Nah,
he can,
darling,
because
he's
that's the
not
same
in
reason.
that league.
That's the same reason why we can sit here and talk about
We
it.
can
because
talk about it, but
have-
we're not talking about. We're not chatty Cathy's or whatever they call.
I mean,
we're
somebody
not talking
might-
about somebody we don't even know told me that's what he. Be quiet. Why are you talking about this man's business?
I mean, that's the way the whole game
that's
works.
clickbait.
Yes,
You
that's what I'm
you
about
capping,
to say.
You clout chasing.
It's all to
all for the
drive
clout.
listens. Yes, it's all
like, but
to
I don't like
drive-
that when grown men do that. You know how I feel about that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
I
Like,
mean,
mind your business.
it's all to
Talk
drive
about it from a
content.
standpoint
I
of how it
mean-
will affect your life. Like, why are you talking about this man's deal? That has nothing. What you eat don't make you. What he eat don't make you shit. Why are you talking about this man's business? Like, stay out of his business.
I mean, so like I said, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, there's more to be gained by working in a situation and removing yourself from it. Like when the Oscars was so white and people were saying we boycott and we not going. I think I understand why you wouldn't go, but it's more impactful to be there and make a statement and say, hey, yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you definitely got to be seen.
Yeah, you got to be seen.
You got to be in the
because
building.
if you don't, then you're gonna be out of sight, out of mind. So you have to be in the
agree.
building. You have to be in these meetings. Like you have to make change from within.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So
Awesome has to tell me that 3 times a week.
Remember, yeah. So I understand what he's getting at as far as like, yo, this is what I owe, and you're gonna get that, but you still in the meantime have expenses. So you don't want to price yourself out of the expenses. You get what you negotiate, 100%, 100%.
Yes.
But if they're saying like, look, we can't give you, I'll just use the 250 because that's what we started with. They're saying we can't give you the 250, but what we can do is we can give you 99.
Yeah.
That's not bad, especially if you like. Okay, look, and for 3 years, and then we renegotiate.
Well, you didn't hear. You just caught the tail. What the deal was that Spotify presented to Joe was not just the podcast. It was the podcast.
Try to give him 360.
The pull up. It was Duce Palooza.
And that's what I was
it
gonna
was
say.
Mall's Masterclass. It was everything that Parks
They tried to
worked
give him a
up.
360.
Like, and Joe was like, "That's like $1 billion deal.
Yeah.
What are you like? What are
But
you?
see,
You trying
this
to buy
the
the
thing.
whole franchise?
There's a difference, but see, look, okay, when you buy a house, you have to have an appraisal. Right?
Yes.
You can't buy a house without appraisal. You
Yep.
can't say my house is $700,000.
No, you cannot.
They be like, bitch, where? Right? a home inspector comes in, he appraises your house. He says your house is appraised for $250.
Yep.
And then you cannot make an offer past that.
Correct.
And so that's the same thing. Like he has to show the receipts on how it's worth that. Now,
This is the easy case study with that, and I'm not in Rory's pockets, but I book arenas. If Rory is selling out the Barclays. Duce Palooza is a $10 million franchise by itself.
Yes.
By itself.
They want to do say?
They wanted everything that was ever associated to anybody on the podcast. That's why Joe was like, "What? Look at Austin's whole mind just got blown."
Because Roy works for Duce. It's really the other dude.
That's what Joe is saying. Joe's like, you can't have Duce. You can't have Maul's Masterclass.
Yeah.
You can't have Rockefeller because he's Big's brother. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What you can't have everything that Parks edits. What are you like everything he engineers? What are you talking about? He was like, no, take this deal and tear it up.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why he was so irate, and I would be irate too.
Yeah, that's a
give
full
me
bug.
give me a deal for this podcast that we are on right now.
I forgot to mention that the one thing that I did notice when I went to the Spotify offices was that they was all kids.
I'm sure.
So now there's a couple of Swedish guys in there that might be over the age of 30, 35 maybe.
Pushing 40.
The
Everybody
majority
else is 20,
is kids.
21 to
So
28.
because companies like that. They like, yo, we got this young wolf. He's tearing stuff up.
What I always tell you, you cannot cheat experience. And the only time you can get experience, only way you get experience is putting in time. That's it.
Tumbasa not there no more, so it's not like Joe's talking about doing business with Tumbasa.
He was like, what happened to Tumbasa? They had no words for him. He said, enough said. Silence is very loud.
It's all these places, all these corporate entities are toxic.
You tell them, darling.
All of them. The whole corporate business structure should go out the window. I have been saying it's an entrepreneur's market out here. These corporate structures are toxic. It's an entrepreneur's market. You know what I'm saying? So
they will pillage. He put it perfectly. They will pillage and try to take
the
everything
blood from your veins.
They'll try to literally have you sign off your firstborn child.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's really crazy.
So I mean, I do think that it's more to be said to be on Spotify, lead the way. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they don't need to do a 360. You know what I'm saying at all.
That was a crazy deal. I would never take that deal.
You know what I'm saying? But so let's keep it on here. So let's actually talk about what's real for podcasters like us, like independents, right? So can an independent get $50 million or a $10 million podcast deal?
I think we've seen it with some people that have come from truly just independent.
Was it dope black girls?
It's a couple.
Oh, you say you want me to put it down?
If you want to, I think that the Reed. I know.
The Reed.
The Reed. I love
Jesus
and Mero. They were just two guys, right? Jesus and Mero, two dope queens. They had the whole HBO series. Not that it's a podcast, but you look at it
started as a podcast.
No, I'm just saying. Next thing I'm about to say, you look at somebody like Issa Rae that was just a YouTuber.
Yeah.
That now you have so can you be independent like that and get to these 40, 50, $100 million? Yes, I do believe that.
Well, I mean, look,
I don't think it's like getting drafted for the NBA, darling. Everybody not gonna make it.
The names that you listed, you can count them on one hand.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? That's why I said the gap between the podcasts is so big. You either got 1,000 or you got 30,000, and then the gap, that's a large gap.
You're right.
So you unless you have that 30,000 per episode, they really don't want to talk to you.
Everybody that we have talked to was like, do you have 30K in downloads per episode?
And this was
like,
a couple years ago.
Like,
now it's all streaming now.
It's
all streaming now, but this is when it was downloads. So we were really, really trying to push to the next level at one point. I was spending mad time like contacting, you know what I'm saying, people about where we could go, what we can do, about offering platform, and really because I knew it was about the wave. The wave was like this. I knew it was about to go over, and I was trying to be at that tip when it crest. You know what I'm saying? And it's tough when, like I said, people on the other end, they might understand it, but they don't value it.
Yes.
So they understand the power of podcasting, but they don't value the black space, the black independent space. You know what I'm saying? So, so you really have to create your own. But I mean, the best that we could probably do is work with a network, you know what I'm saying, that gives us sponsoring. It's kind of like Anchor does already. And get a ton of listens and take that little bit of money and reinvest it into either a better production and then upgrade to YouTube.
Yep.
And then after going to YouTube, go to a bigger network. Like honestly, it could be like you said, HBO to Spotify. I
Showtime. really like what Quibi's doing.
Quibi, yeah.
If Quibi did something for podcasting platform, I think that's the wave to chop it up in those 15 minutes. I think the quick, fast micro podcast will be something along those lines. I tell Awesome, it's the integration with the social media and your influence that makes you the money, right? So having a blog, having great content on all of your social media platforms is now what's drawing the money to us. They want people want Little Miss Entertainment to wear their products or sponsor their product or talk about their product. So it's the influence. Is not the problem. Is that's always been how the revenue stream has come in. How do you take these hour to 2 hour to 3 hour long pieces of content and get paid for them? Yeah. That's where it's still up in the air. Nobody honestly really knows. Joe went on a 6-week rant about how much is a stream? What is the worth of a stream?
He always says
but
that,
he's
man.
right.
I feel like,
if somebody streams this podcast that we're doing for 2 hours, what is the worth of that? That's 2 hours of content.
This is where Patreon and stuff like that comes in. Anything is only worth what someone is willing to pay for.
You always say that. You always say that.
And I understand, like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, yo, you Patreon really has it the best way. You have different tiers and let people pay what they want.
Yeah. But you should be able to put your creativity and your piece of content out on a large platform for people that you might not be able to reach. Right? So the people in France and the people in South Africa and the people in Brazil, shout out to all those countries that for whatever reason, people in France effing love this show. The one you're listening to right now.
Yeah, but I mean,
right?
To
but I
counteract
can't touch all of them. I have to rely on the word of mouth of those people that listen to this show.
Say, yeah.
But if I'm on a larger platform and they're giving me a marketing budget and they're pushing me internationally, that's a different conversation.
So that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, if you're as big as you say you are, then you'll reach those people. If you're doing the numbers that you say you're doing,
we're independent.
You'll reach them. I'm not talking about us. I'm just saying anybody. Like if Joe's really that big and he did his own platform, he'll reach them regardless.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
Sure he is.
For the method you have. I mean, but I was talking about, like, you know what I'm saying, for us, what we could possibly do. I mean, Gimlet, you guys might have heard of Gimlet, might not. Gimlet Media, they got purchased by Spotify. They're a podcast network. They they do original content. They got series and things like that. They got purchased for $3 million. This is a whole network.
And it's a ton of content on
yes,
this platform.
And that's what I was about to say. They have more content.
It's a ton of content.
They do scripted. They do, you know what I'm saying, episodes like this. They have
episodic.
Yep. They have you know what I'm saying, they have like challenges. Yeah, they have like game shows, trivia. They have tons of stuff.
Yep.
That they're
NPR
bringing. Yes.
is on Gimlet, I think.
They doing all that, and so that is a value because it's multifaceted. You know what I'm saying? What is the first thing that they put on their job applications? They want multitaskers. Can you operate in fast, high-paced environments, and can you, multitask?
Yep, you're absolutely
Honestly,
right.
Joe is really just doing one job. These companies, to get the value out of them and to for you to prove your worth, they want you to do multiple things, manage multiple projects. You know what I'm saying?
But why do we have to do that? Like, there's
because it's their company. That's why people.
There's difference between multitasking and you having me doing one person doing 30 people's
you're right.
jobs.
You're doing too much stuff.
That's a difference.
And see, this is why when people start their own businesses, what do? One thing.
They focus on one thing.
They focus on one thing. Yes. And when you go to these companies, they spread you so thin. You're doing so much stuff. You can't do nothing. You have a mental breakdown. You die early.
Yep.
You go to you start your own business. You do one thing and you just make your bread from it.
It's always why we've tried to stay true to the content that we put on the Little Miss Entertainment show.
Can't do everything.
It's been interview style, timeless content. amazing people telling their amazing stories. And when we haven't had interviews, it's Awesome and I giving you guys jewels and information that you can take with you forever.
Yeah.
Period. We made the wedding edition. 2 black millennial
That's something
people,
you're actually going through.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 black millennial people that are planning their wedding. It don't matter if you plan your wedding today or in 2030, you will be able to listen to the wedding edition. We have always focused on making timeless content that people will be able to go back and look at as a resource. That has always been my goal. You know, at one point when Awesome and I started the Little Miss Entertainment Show, he thought that it should go like this, and I was like, I don't really want to go like that. And you know, he understood. He started to see my vision in that because he quickly saw what was popping. Everybody started falling off.
Yeah.
Like they immediately started falling off because what they were doing as soon as the 800-pound gorilla came in, they were done. They were done.
As soon as the influx of celebrity podcasts do
Correct.
the same thing,
Nobody wanted to listen to them anymore.
They couldn't compete with it.
They
Yeah.
couldn't compete.
Yep.
Yep.
But there's always a niche of people. Like I said, there's a difference between what they want you to listen to and who you should listen to.
Yep.
So if you stay to who you should listen to, you'll be fine.
We have changed people's lives with Little Miss Entertainment Show. I you know, and I don't say that to be a pat on the back or anything like that. People have literally written me dissertations in my DMs like, thank you for just sharing that information. It's stuff that Awesome shares about college, education, professionalism. Same with me. College, education, professionalism, things that we have shared with people that they're like, I never heard that before. My mother's brother's uncle never even shared that with me. You know, we continue to share timeless content, and it's what my passion has always been. We will continue to go down this path. I tell Awesome all the time, Joe, I think, has been doing their podcast for 7 years. Some of these other podcasts have come in. They've been 2019. They're going into their year 1. Anything that's worth having, anything that's worth building, nobody sees the 10 years that you put behind you of hard work and effort. That's why we will never give up on this platform. We will never give up on it. I tell Awesome sometimes we get exhausted, we get tired, we get frustrated.
We got other things to do.
We have other things to do. We will never give up on this platform because we have put too much into it.
Yeah.
We've put too much into it. I already have and understand what this platform will look like in 10 years for him and myself and our family.
And you know, the money matters, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? For independent perspective.
Correct.
But it's either it's good until it's not anymore, or you down until you come up. I mean,
you gotta stay down till you come up.
What do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? You know what I'm saying? And then things change. You know what I'm saying? If someone, but they have to appreciate the value in it. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, they only appreciate the value through the dollars.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which is a shame. I mean, but the independent space, there's so many creatives that have such good content. It's just a matter of time. It really is a matter of time, and it's a matter of the right platforms coming. Spotify, we're seeing now, is not the right platform. Apple has not been the right platform since the beginning, right? There's you know, like I said, now there's Castbox, there's Sounder, right? There's Anchor, you know what I'm saying? So eventually, you know, but these are mostly, you know, white spaces though in podcasting. Eventually it will come where there will be a space for us.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, whether it's a part of something or whether it's its own thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So my thoughts at the end of this, I think that I understand Joe, how he feels. There's always going to be copycats. I do kind of feel like Charlamagne took a lot of his people.
I think a lot of people have taken a lot of Joe Budden swag for their podcast.
Yeah. I think that I do think he asked for the 250. I think he should have settled somewhere in the middle. I do think that his podcast though is not worth as much as Joe Rogan's. And I think Spotify was never going to pay him more than they were going to pay Joe Rogan. But I think that, you know what I'm saying, he's getting more than Dave Chappelle. And not even comparing it, but you know what I'm saying? That I think Dave Chappelle was right. Too much money, there's a consequence for too much money.
You are absolutely
I mean,
right.
I always talk about this in Michael Vick. You know what I'm saying? Michael Vick was the highest paid quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And he to not win a Super Bowl. And you see what happened to him, unfortunately. I mean, they took a situation and really defined his career around it that had nothing to do with his career. And I feel like, you know what I'm saying, Joe should understand that the game he's playing, and that some is better than none. Especially when you're saying you're thinking about all these other people.
For sure. I think this was great content, information. We just wanted to speak our piece on it. You know, I really appreciate everybody when I say something, or you know, they always send a message via my DMs too. Awesome. You know, I just appreciate all of the feedback, and we're here. Like, I can't believe we can really probably say that we are OGs in this game. Like, this was something that came fast and furious, and we remember when we're like, oh my gosh, look, now everybody got a podcast, because we were so passionate about it and traveling and learning and just growing and networking with people. We have the honor to have met Combat Jack and spoken to him, and you know, a lot of people will not ever be able to say that, and that was a moment in a time in this industry, and we just hope that we're making Combat proud. I know that we are. I'm sure he's just smiling down on everybody that he ever touched and graced, and said, y'all keep doing this, y'all keep the movement. And we just want to always put him at the forefront, because he was at the forefront of all of this. So once again, rest in peace to Combat Jack. You know, awesome. Thank you for providing me this platform. He provided me this platform where I felt like my voice wasn't being heard.
Well, I provided you with the idea.
You did.
You know what I'm saying? But we worked on the platform
Absolutely.
together.
Absolutely. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to do this without you. It is a labor of love. When I tell you, sometimes we really beef about this whole show. We really beef. But when it's all love, it's all love. And it's so beautiful when we have done live shows and people are like, that's amazing. And we just have a high. We're like, we're actually doing this right. Like, people like this content. People like it. So, you know, we love you guys. We wouldn't be anything without the listeners out there. Thank you guys for always supporting and showing love and just spreading the word. All of my new listeners, all of my little network that I've gotten over the pandemic, I really, like, y'all are it. Like, I'm starting to really find my tribe on social media and within this avenue, and I really appreciate that you guys like the podcast. We really do.
So keep things going, y'all. We expanding a lot into YouTube. So go on to YouTube, follow Little Miss Entertainment, check out the videos. We're gonna release a lot more. We've been hoarding a lot of stuff on Patreon. We're still gonna have our wedding stuff exclusively on Patreon, but we're gonna release a lot more of these, like, episodes that's sort of like general talking, and a lot of the Little Miss Entertainment episodes we're gonna put those on YouTube, and then but the wedding stuff is still gonna be on Patreon until after the wedding. So subscribe to the Patreon, subscribe to the YouTube.
Just search the Little Miss ENT show.
Listen to the podcast on Apple. Listen to it on Anchor FM. We're soon gonna be partnering with Sounder FM.
We're on Spotify.
What we're gonna do there is we're gonna release Little Miss Entertainment's top 15 episodes. And then so you'll have those, because we got over 100 episodes, and so she's gonna personally curate her top 15 on there, and then, you know, we're gonna, you know, just keep grinding. You know what I'm saying? But we need you guys to like, comment, and subscribe.
Leave a review.
Leave
comment,
a review,
subscribe.
so that way we can get the 100 milli back.
Yes, absolutely. Because you guys don't realize, just that thumbs up button, hitting like and subscribe, that helps us out so much. It really does.
It does. It really does. Because that's what they're watching. That's what they're looking for.
That's what the metrics are based off of.
When we send these quarterly reports to these podcast networks, they're saying, what's your streams, what's your downloads look like. So,
follow me on all my social medias at Little Miss ENT, LILMISSENT. And as always, we love you guys for listening, because 100% you didn't have to. Have a great week.
Peace.
Peace.